What is up, family? Dante from Above the Bridge here, letting you know that we're throwing our very first festival ever on August 2nd at the Fox Theater in Pomona. We got 13 bands and 2 stages for $30. Headlining, we got Ultra Q, we got Young Gatita, Slow Hollows, Nemo Lakes, Fat Evil Children, The Soaps, we got Bed, Chicano Mosh, Ridgeway, who am I forgetting? Lots more. Lots of bands, 13 of them to be exact. $30, August 2nd. Be there. It's going to be insane.
Music matters. Israel's Arcade. How we doing, gentlemen?
Yo.
Doing good.
Thanks for doing this, guys. I appreciate you coming back.
Hell yeah. Happy to be back, dude.
Hell yeah.
It's our favorite spot.
Yeah, dude. Well, we're grateful to have you, man. Yeah, the first interview, I was listening back to it last night. It's one that I look back on very fondly. It was a really fun one, and I feel like it came at a cool period too, because that was directly before the first project, right? Or maybe right after? It might have been right after.
I can't remember, but it was definitely close to its release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's sick to have you guys back on for the second one.
Hell yeah.
Pray for rain, man. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess a lot of what I want to talk about was the project, and a lot of the sonics on it, obviously. But I think there's a lot of ground to coverage in terms of like where you guys have progressed as a band from when we first talked till now.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've grown a lot, and I think what's so cool about this project is sonically it's very different from the first one. It takes you in a whole different direction, and I think it's in my opinion it's like an improvement on all fronts. I mean, I love the last project, but this one it feels very, very, very special, and so I'm stoked to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, it's fantastic. But I was last night. I was kind of where I wanted to start.
Yeah.
But last night I was listening to it on the way home, and I was driving down the 5, and I was listening to "Watch You Go." And I think what's so cool about that song is just like how big it all feels. And I think like this whole project, I feel like front to back, all the songs feel just incredibly fleshed out and incredibly full. And not to say the last project didn't, but I think there's something on this project where everything just feels like very explosive. And I mean, like I was listening to the first interview that we did, and it was cool because you were kind of talking about in the very beginning of it how whenever you release music, you kind of like try to separate yourself from like how it does, and it's so difficult to like grapple with the idea of putting out your first project, because we were talking about how like you put your first project out, and you know if it does well, you get a year and a half to 2 years to put out the second one.
Yeah.
It's kind of difficult in that regard. But I guess where I wanted to start, I wanted to ask you like the time period between the first project and the second project, because the project did well and it did a lot for you guys, and you definitely grew as a band a ton from that project. Did you feel the pressure of getting the second one done faster on your back? Because it seems like you cranked it out pretty quickly. Did you begin working on this album immediately after the first one, or was it already in the works? And did you feel pressure to finish it quickly?
Well, it was almost immediate. It was like I think I gave myself like 2 months. I remember I told myself, I was like, just 2 months to just kind of not think about writing and like trying to create something all the time, because that is a lot of energy on its and a lot of artists work differently. Like I have a lot of friends who are just always creating, like literally always fucking making something. And I don't work that way. I don't know why. I just get like burnt out quickly, so I have to space it out, and I have to so I give myself a couple months to just kind of like just kind of, I don't know, I guess like cleanse the palate a little bit, like just kind of refresh. And yeah, I mean, saying that the first album did well, like it's just so difficult to like how to gauge that, you know what I mean? Like
it's so subjective.
It is, but it's weird. Like we'll do a show and people know the words to like every song on the album, and that's awesome to see. But also, I think I just felt like I mean, so many artists are just putting shit out all the fucking time, like nonstop. You know what I mean? And like I have some friends that they literally put something out, twice a month or once every month, and they're doing great. And I think that's just it just differs from artist to artist. But I think the name of the game now is to just continuously be putting stuff out. Even bands that are massive now, like Fontaine's, like they're very consistent still.
Sure.
And so I knew I had to keep it pushing because people weren't gonna wait. It wasn't gonna wait for anybody.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting too. I think that actually differs from like genre to genre. And I actually feel like sometimes what's really cool about band-driven genres is their commitment to the long form. I think like their commitment to the album format sometimes gives you a lot more room to like fully flesh things out and like take an entire cohesive body of work and like take your time with it, let it grow with you, let it take a second to really like, figure out the vision and kind of like realize what you want to say on it,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the first time. I think the first time that I saw you perform post the album was the show you did with In Vitro in Bed at Coyote Studios.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I think that was the first time post-album I saw you play. And I remember immediately that it seemed like the reaction to the project was really positive.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see. I guess going, just filling in the blanks from that period of time to this period of time, what was it kind of like to experience that for the first time? Like seeing people singing your songs, knowing the lyrics, like, having like a true fan base. Was that intimidating in the beginning, and did you have to kind of learn to grapple with it and understand what it meant and how to handle it?
I'll let you guys answer. Yeah.
Well, for me personally, man, seeing the fans react like that, like, singing along to our songs, honestly, I get emotional. I think it's just such a beautiful moment. Like, holy shit, these are our fans. It really just, like, on stage, I'm like, holy shit, I smiled and I like looked at the bandmates. I'm like, this is insane, dude. Like, they fucking love us. Like,
I think it's hard not to get like emotional about it. Like, I think if you don't, you're like a sociopath or something, because it's
100%, dude.
fucking insane.
Yeah,
it's insane.
I actually feel like you should always be like as in tune to those emotions as you possibly can.
Oh yeah.
I think the second that you get like dull to that, you kind of lose what makes music so human.
Yeah,
Right.
Like, you really lose that, I think, the second you become so accustomed to just like people adoring you. It's like a weird power dynamic.
That's when you get lost in the sauce.
Yeah, exactly. What were the biggest growing pains, do you think, between the last project and this project? Because I know you guys played a bunch of shows. You did that tour with the Slum Rats. You guys gigged a ton between the last project and this one. Do you feel like, did these songs get tighter as you began to play them more and touring them around and stuff? And I'm also curious, how much did the songs change but just through playing them live and like experiencing them in the live context a lot? Did they kind of change the way you played them? Because I felt like, I saw you at least 4 or 5 times between that period, and I felt like they definitely grew a lot.
Well, that tour specifically helped us grow so much. I think honestly, a big part of it is like Slum Rats are just a band that's like, like when you're on tour, it's just extremely like physically and mentally demanding, and so there was some shows where like we maybe weren't playing to that many people, and like we had maybe drank too much the night before, and the drive was insane, and like we just didn't have the same energy, but like Slum Rats brought it every single fucking night, and like like they gave the same fucking amazing performance that they would give to 2,000 people, and so that definitely pushed us to just want to fucking consistently be better. But to answer your question, like this album is the first album where we all kind of like have some of ourselves in it, and we all like worked together on it. We all wrote it together, and recorded it together. So everything prior was just like me in my bedroom, like just trying to make it work, you know? And for this one, like we got an Airbnb in Joshua Tree for a week, and the sole purpose of that was just to write music, was just to write an album. And so yeah, I told the guys, I was like, I need all of you guys to come in with like an idea, whether it be like anything, whether it be like a chord progression or just like a synth patch or a melody. Like, let's just we gutted this person's living room, and we got in a circle, and we literally went around the circle and was like, all right, like, what do you got? And then we would like build off of that, and that's how the whole album pretty much came about. So yeah, but this album is extremely different from our past stuff, I think, because the collaborative effort and Also, I think like with our past stuff, like I think with this current album, we were able to kind of think about and like we had the ability to tweak everything, you know, where the last stuff, like the stuff before this album was very, I think we were very, at least I felt very limited and like just like, you know, we didn't use any like actual live drums, and it was kind of just me like on my MIDI keyboard like trying to play the drums on there, and you know, it doesn't sound like an actual drum kit, like it's too precise, and like the fills aren't like really what a drummer would do, and so this I think this feels a lot more,
it feels way more live.
Yeah, I think it has more of like a human touch, and I think maybe this album just has more like, we put more love into it. You know?
Wow, that's really cool.
Well, like you said earlier, you're like, you described it as big, which I think that was the goal we were all trying to go for. Like when we thought like, oh, we're writing an album, I remember you would always say just like, imagine like big, imagine just like a huge sound to it, and I feel like we kept like, you know, we like honed in on that feeling, because you can't like you said with the electric drums and stuff, like you can't get that same effect with it. Like I feel like electric drums and stuff like that, it has its moments, but like where it should be, but yeah, I feel like that was a good way to put it, just like big, and you know, like that, like just that powerful sound to it.
Yeah,
you know?
that makes a lot of sense. I really think there is something to going into an album with the sole intention of making a project.
Right.
Like I think that intention that you set out prior definitely probably had a lot to do with the way that it came out. Because the thing about your first album, dude, is like, if it's very rare that somebody like begins making music and they're like, I'm gonna make an album. A lot of those songs, I imagine, had existed for years prior at that point.
Yeah.
Which this is a very different thing. It's a whole objective. It's like, we're making the sophomore LP. It is like, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna go to this place and just kind of do it. How so it's really cool to hear you describe that process, where like it was a much more collaborative approach this time, opposed to just Israel kind of taking the reins and stuff. I'd ask you, Israel, and this is a little personal, it's okay if you don't want to answer it, but
of course,
there is a very real thing, I think, with frontmen who write their own music in the band and then bring it to the band context, and needing to relinquish a little bit of control there. And I think that's a very beautiful process for a lot of bands who like move into that more collaborative space. As you kind of moved into it, what do you think were the biggest things that you learned? And I would imagine it made you guys all like a lot closer. So I'm curious, how did your relationship kind of flourish throughout this album and grow?
I mean, so we recorded it at my childhood home. So so we all, Marcus lives there with me, and so we were just basically like all living at the place that we recorded it at. And I think that just made it almost felt like I remember, so we recorded it for a week straight. We brought out a guy named Alex Rogers to engineer the album. And I think we like planned on having like, you know, more nights where we'd like record all day, and then at night maybe we'd just like watch a movie or like go have a drink or something like that. But there was literally no time for that. Like we were recording from morning time till like 2, sometimes 4 in the morning, like literally just fucking hitting it. And recording and trying to come up with like ideas to make arrangements better. And so I don't know, I think it was almost like a boot camp or something. Like at least for me, like it felt like we have a mission and there's no time to like really fuck around. And everybody was on the same page, like everybody was just as fucking locked in, you know. And yeah, it's I think it's gotten so much easier. Not that it was ever difficult, but it's easy to work with these guys. Like we have a great, like, you know, dynamic when it comes to, I don't know, it's just easy. It's just easy. It doesn't take much like direction, and I think I even myself as you know, a frontman or whatever, like I think it's easier for me to also give direction now. Where I was maybe a little like, I don't know if scared is the right word, but I just didn't ever want to come off as like a fucking like dictator or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I feel like I've struggled with a lot of the same things. I think for the longest time I was incredibly insecure about being a leader, because I'm always like, I mean, relationships are incredibly important to me, and like I think like art is only special because you make it with your friends, and I think like letting sometimes like the pressure of really because like being ambitious is great, right, but like letting your ego get in the way sometimes of like what makes the best art is very, very possible, right. Especially when you're working in the confines of a band with so many different personalities and different people and different ideas. But it's so cool to hear you talk about how you made it in your childhood home, because this album sounds like the desert. It really does, in a really cool way. There's a lot of like really interesting like leads on it that are very desolate and just they feel very almost like dry in a way. But the album feels like the desert to me. It's really cool. But I would also ask you, like, giving yourself those time constraints, I think that's a really, really interesting approach, and I really believe in the idea that limitation breeds creativity. But like, was that the intention going in, where you like, we're gonna give ourselves this week to record the project, and then when you did that, do you think because you were just kind of working through all the problems, like, you know, musically and just like solving everything in your head, did that lead you to any conclusions that you didn't have when you went in with the demos? Like, did any songs start super far from where they ended up?
A lot of them did, but it I think the limitation definitely like, we knew that there wasn't any space to fuck around, you know?
Yeah.
And I think only Marcus really knows this, but there's some songs that I didn't finish writing till a few days before we started recording. You know, there was just like some arrangement things or some lyrics that I just wanted to like really fine tune, and I was just, you know, trying to like bang them out in my living room, and I definitely procrastinated on that. Like, I definitely was like putting it off, and there was that feeling of like, fuck, like like my whole house is going to be turned into a studio. Engineer is coming down for a whole week, you know, we're putting money into this, everybody had to like request time off of work, like fucking so much shit is kind of, you know, depending on this 1 week and all of us like bringing it. So I think that procrastination definitely, like, you know, lit a fire under my ass, like, towards the end.
Did you guys at any point kind of feel like you had your back against the wall in a good way, like working against those time constraints?
Personally, I kind of saw it as like a challenge, you know, like with the time restraint and everything. It just like what Israel said, it was like, we have no time to fuck around. Like, are you guys in it, or you know, are you guys here to fuck around, take breaks? You know, we just don't have time for that. So I love that, you know. I love working under a crunch, and I just try to get everything I can do, like, get it done, you know?
I will say though, I do look forward to, like, in the future having a bigger budget and having like
more time to breathe.
Because I
I'm
do.
not saying that I liked it. It'd be nice, but
I see what you're saying. But like when we were writing the album in Joshua Tree, honestly, like, I knew this was important, but we would kind of, like, there wasn't really a set time for us to begin, like a set time in the day for us to begin writing. It was kind of just like, wake up, let's have breakfast, let's hang out for a bit, maybe like watch, you know, some TV, go outside, you know, hang out outside for a little bit, and then like maybe like somebody like starts playing the guitar in the living room, and then like we'll slowly start joining. And it was very like natural and organic in that way, and I think that that's really how it should be when it's when writing. I mean, I don't know, like, I think as artists I think the like an artist's mind shouldn't be really like confined to, I don't know. But I did see something recently that, like, about Eminem. I don't know if you've seen that, where it's like Eminem like treats the studio like it's a 9 to 5. Like, right at 5 he leaves the studio.
I get that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that's important for an artist to kind of like, you know, just be a little bit more free and not so rigid with like time constraints and stuff like that. So I look forward to, like, in the future being able to like rent like a studio like on a ranch or something like that, and hang out there and slowly get through it and enjoy the process a little bit more, and, you know,
ideally you want as much time as you want, like, you need, right? But
I also think there's a certain aspect of like having a little bit of a fire under your ass.
Totally.
That like also helps the creative process, because if we had all the time in the world to like fine tune every detail, I feel like we would like never release an album. Like we would just like slowly, you know, just like pick apart like the minuscule things that don't matter, like the one like little patch on like a pedal. It's like it's not gonna make a difference, you know. But because I will say their studio recording session was a lot different from mine, since I'm kind of like the overtop on the overlaying. My experience recording was actually rather leisurely. Like it was like compared to them, they were on a crunch, and it was like, hey Chris, could you show up Thursday and like record sax? And I was like, yeah. Like it's just like, it was very, it was.
So you were coming in and out.
I was coming in and out because since mine was just always on the overdub, like I couldn't really play with them because of like mic bleeding and things like that. So I just had to like show up later. And honestly, like it was nice because the things that actually did need to get fine-tuned, like the synthesizers, I had the leisurely to like do that with Israel and Alex, you know.
But even then, I was gonna say, like, we're still, like, time is still limited even then.
Oh yeah,
where like you're trying to find the perfect fucking synth,
and it's like
wave,
it's like,
and then you got to reach a point where you're just like, fuck it, that sounds good. That's good.
That's it. Where you could have found something you really liked.
Right.
I think it's so easy to drive yourself insane as an artist and that kind of stuff, because like your brain is so trained to pick apart every single aspect of every single song, where it's like nobody is like like no one knows the difference between like the smallest difference in like a fill or like something like that. Like the listener is not picking those things apart.
Right.
But it's so easy as a musician to like get in your head and stuff like that. Especially though, like I actually think one of the cool things about giving yourself a time constraint is you don't get to choose when things are done. I think that is something that I've seen a lot of artists do, is just like tear apart a song over and over and over again, and it just never gets out.
Progress.
Yeah,
you're like not. Yeah.
And it just stays stagnant.
Right.
How did you guys know when a song was truly finished? Like, was it a feeling-based thing?
When it's on Spotify.
I think it is a feeling-based thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was a few songs that were like, okay, this is the finished song, and then we'd show them to Alex, and he'd be like, his job was, you know, as a producer, was to kind of like make sure that like, basically just like a song structure, just like the song in general, was as good as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
And so we'd play the song for him, and then he'd you know, add a comment like, oh, maybe on this section of the second bridge, the drums go into like a different beat, and that'll help intensify the song and make it more interesting, so that when it reaches the chorus, it's more exciting.
Right.
And a bunch of things like that he added that like really fucking, I think, took this album to the next level.
Yeah.
You know,
shout out Alex on that. That was like he did so good with that.
He did amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what a good producer does. I think like, I mean, that's a big thing with you guys too, is like being a 5-piece and having like Chris on like synth and sax and stuff. It's different because it's not like the traditional rock band dynamic where it's just bass, drums, 2 guitars and vocals. Like I think having the sax and the synth on this project I think that's a big part of what makes it feel so huge.
Yeah.
Like
it's that extra layer.
100%. It just makes it feel so much bigger. I think one of my favorite examples of this is Bird in the Snare, because like just right off rip, bro, like the first song on the project, it just hits you like a truck. Like it is so huge, and just that whole the sax line that kind of mirrors the it's just so big. When you guys recorded that one, did you know that was the intro right off rip? Because to me it sounds like such an intro. It just hits you like a ton of bricks.
That one even got adjusted a little bit. Because like even the way like the bass comes in, like not right at the start, but it goes like it.
But I think he's saying, did we know that was going to be the first track?
Yeah.
Oh,
on the album.
No, we didn't.
We didn't from the start. No.
Well, it's because I feel like there's different routes that you can take with like a first track on an album. It's like you can do like, you know, a more ambient thing that kind
peeling
of
the curtain back or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, which is what we did with our first album, Live Your Fantasy. Like we started that one with a song called You Can't Hurt Me, which is like a very, you know, fast, like punk sounding song, which is kind of like, it just kind of like punches you in the face from the start.
Sure.
And I've always liked the idea of that. It's like you know, as soon as the fucking album starts, like, you know, like it kind of like grabs you by the throat. You know what I mean? It was so funny. Like I showed the album to my dad, and my dad was like, I like the song, I don't like that it just goes straight into, like, I don't know. He said something about like how it goes straight into like being so loud. He's like, you got to start it off with a soft sound and then go into it. It's like, honestly, that's probably a good idea. We probably should have done that.
It's always so funny to hear people like who are so far outside of music, like their interpretation of something. It's always interesting though, because they bring up things I think you would never think about. Like they kind of have more of the listener's perspective, whereas I think sometimes musicians are like concerned with such specific elements of a song, whereas like the untrained ear sometimes is a better resource.
This is a super specific question, but like, do you ever like talk to like a non-music person and she like show them a song and the only thing they can do is just compare it to other things that they like know musically? It's like you show them like a rock riff, they're like, oh, that's like Nirvana, or it's like you show them a synth line, oh, it's like Mario Kart. It's like, I don't know, it's like that, I don't know.
Mario Kart.
Like Mario Kart's crazy.
like some video game music.
Dude's
like, it's
really fucking uncultured.
That's like Drake.
It's Bird in the Snare.
Did you guys I'm curious, working off each other as you were kind of in that space recording, how did so I know you said that you all kind of came in with different ideas, but did everything always get produced in the same order? Like, were you beginning with drums and then like were you working off that, or would you come in with like a synth line, or would you come in with like a guitar riff? Was every song made with the same process?
Every time was different.
Yeah.
Every single song, like if you point out a song on the album, we can tell you exactly where it started from. Every single song was like a different writing process.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we had a single song start with just drums, right? That we built off of. No, it was always a riff. Yeah.
A rift.
A riff.
It was always a riff.
There's one song on the album that Chris actually came up with the guitar part for, and it's literally just he brought in 2 chords, and that's all we needed. We like built off of a jam off of those 2 chords, and that became the whole song. And that song is literally just 2 chords. It's Rumblefish.
Yeah,
that song is literally just C and D. Yeah, and we just like jammed on it for a while, and we like came up with a bunch of like melodies to layer it that I think make it the song. But I think that's so funny that we have a song that's literally just 2 chords and we made it work somehow. I think we made it work.
It's so interesting because I think sometimes you get to the root of what makes a song special when you strip it back to its most basic elements. Yeah. Like I think sometimes you can get caught in like I want this to be more, and like I need it to be more theoretically complex, but sometimes like an open chord progression is just like it works. Right. And I think sometimes like that allows like the emotion to come through in a whole different way, you know? I was curious too. This, and I mean, I was listening back to our first interview, like I said, and we were both 21 when we did it, and now we're both 23, which is pretty cool. But doing this whole project, I think one of my favorite things about it when looking at the last project is the lyrics on this one feel a lot more vulnerable. It's a very personal album, I think, a lot of the times, and that's really cool, and I really commend the vulnerability on it. I think a lot of lyricism is very you. But I was curious, like you guys all recording together in that space and hearing Israel be vulnerable like that, how do you take that as a band sometimes? Like, or is it ever hard to like make sure that you're still...
Is it really hard not to laugh?
No, not to laugh. But is it ever hard to like make sure you're validating the feeling of the song in the moment while still remaining like true to the vision of it and not, making it stray too far from the original place?
It's not hard at all. I mean, I feel like when Israel does like come up with like lyrics for a song and it's very like deep on like so many levels. Yeah. You have at least for me, like I have no choice but to, level down with it and appreciate it. I love it. I love the music. I love where it's gone. Yeah. And to see Israel come up with the lyrics like he did, we lived together. I was there when he was sitting on the couch for fucking 6 hours a day, like coming up with these songs so fast. Yeah. And then him showing me, I was like, dude, this is amazing. Yeah. Like, him just opening it up and just being like, what do you think about this? On
the flip side, Israel, is it ever hard for you to get so vulnerable in a song? Because I do think, I mean, again, that to me is one of the biggest 2 differences between the last project and this one. I think this one's a lot more personal. Is it ever difficult for you to talk about some of those more difficult emotions on tracks and like be as personal as you are on some of these songs?
I don't know if it's difficult I think like, you know, I love like Johnny Pierce, the drums, and like Morrissey. Like, I feel like those are two songwriters that their lyrics are extremely dramatic.
Yeah.
And I love that so much. I love that style of songwriting, and I think that I often write things that are that dramatic. And then I kind of realize, like, hey, maybe this is a little too much. Like, maybe this is a little too crazy, and I think I gotta like make it a little bit more, like, say it in a way that's a little bit more dressed up, instead of just, you know what I mean, instead of just like kind of outwardly saying it, saying like the intense line. So yeah, I honestly got really into poetry like this past summer. And I like before then I really wasn't into poetry. Like, I thought poetry was like kind of lame. Like I just thought I don't know, I just honestly just really disliked it, because I just didn't like the fact that people would write things that weren't clear. I just didn't like that. I was like, just tell me straight up like what you're trying to say. Like, sure, like you could decipher it, but I don't know, I didn't like that style. And I think,
did that change with this project?
It changed for sure. Like, I think this past summer I started getting more into like this sounds so fucking cliche, I feel like, but just like the power of words, and like I got really into comedy, and like I think just like songwriting and comedy are so alike in the fact that like you can write something, like you have this kind of like fucking like all these words that you can choose from, and if you group together like a limited amount of words, like if you could put together 4 words, and those 4 words, you know, strike a chord with somebody and hit them, you know, like on the, like really hit them in their heartstrings, you know, like that's power, you know what I mean? That's a really powerful thing, to be able to say like sum up a feeling and kind of you know, and for it to affect somebody like that just became really powerful to me. And yeah, so I think I started to kind of see people who, I guess, poets, you know, people that are good with words and know how to phrase things in a beautiful way. I started seeing them as like prophets, you know. You know, it's almost like when you're reading out of your poetry book, it's like you're a preacher that's like, you know, preaching the gospel, you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, I think there's such a fine line that you try to tote as an artist and a lyricist, where it's like you don't want to just say things entirely outright, but you also don't want them to be like entirely buried in metaphor, to the point where it's like you're trying to make something metaphoric that might not necessarily be metaphoric. I think it's really hard to strike that balance. But I mean, there's so many moments on this project that feel like you do that very well. Like Pray for Rain, the title track is really cool, because I think it does this very interesting thing where like the metaphor of praying for rain is certainly, I mean, that's very much like, you know, kind of an abstract thought buried in metaphor, but some of the lyrics are a lot more straightforward. Like there's one lyric, I believe it's I'll
help you out. How does it go, or which part of the song?
It's first verse. I've been here before. It's when
it's time to change that tune.
It's time to change that tune.
Time to change the score.
Yeah, time to change the score. Yeah, exactly. I think that, to me, that line, a lot of lyricism on that song specifically, it sums up a lot of the themes in the project, because like I said, it's very emotional, but at the same time there is sort of like a positive spin on a lot of these songs, where it's like a lot of it feels like a hope, like almost like a hopeful undertone, where like you're kind of like reaching for this thing that didn't exist prior and like trying to make that thing come to fruition. It felt very emblematic of like, you know, the idea of a sophomore release. It's like very much like it's a very specific place in your career.
I didn't even think about that.
But I think like the undertones, it reminded me of the first project a lot, because I remember you saying how much you want to write things that make people feel hopeful and feel happy. When you come to a song with emotions that might necessarily be kind of negative, how do you spin that into more of a positive light and like kind of make the listener leave that with more of a hopeful undertone?
I don't know. I think in my songwriting, I don't like to end things on like a very negative note. I think like when I write a song, I try to make it kind of like a story with a problem and a resolution at the end.
Yeah.
You know, to the best of my ability. I don't think like Pray for Rain. I think that song in specific literally ends on kind of like I don't even say the last word, and I think that makes it sound sad, you know. But I think in general, like I tried to kind of resolve, you know, resolve like the songs in some way, kind of, you know, establish the issue and then kind of resolve it, you know. And I think that I think one, it's just easier for me to write songs that way. It just makes sense to me. And there is a part of me like for Live Your Fantasy, like I did want Live Your Fantasy to be like, to have like a positive feeling to it and make somebody feel good, and I think that's still, you know, embedded in my songwriting a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to get in this place as an artist where it's, I mean, sometimes the more poignant emotions are the sad ones, right? Like, I think sometimes the more powerful emotions are the negative ones.
Yeah.
So I think it can get easy to shoehole yourself into this, or pigeonhole yourself into this place where, like, you're only writing about negative emotions.
Yeah.
But that's a tough place to be as a human being. Like, I think that makes it kind of difficult to balance the life of being an artist and writing about your real life.
You can't really
also
grow if you're doing that.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of the songs in this project, do they generally come from more negative or more positive emotions?
I would say positive emotions. I think what I wanted to do with this album was like so the fact that I moved back into my childhood home. So that home, I lived there up until I was about 9. That was my grandmother's home. She helped raise me, and she passed, and then since then my family had kind of rented that house out. We moved somewhere else, and you know, I became an adult, and I realized, like, hey, like, that's my home, like, that's, you know. So I wanted to reclaim that home, and I knew for many reasons, you know, I knew that being at my childhood home, where, you know, I picked up a guitar for the first time, where I played the drums for the first time, and, you know, I knew it was like a form of like getting back to like my true self, you know, my just like, you know, I guess just like getting in touch with like my roots and my, you know, little Israel, I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so so we moved back into that house, and that was also part of like, I wanted to create like an environment like kind of how you have here, where like I just, you know, want my artist friends to come over and feel comfortable there, and, you know, pick up a guitar at any given moment and just start, like, I just wanted it to be like a creative space. And then I also, you know, quit my day job, and I started working for another artist. And so I was just, who's like, you know, a guy that's like an established painter in his 50s, and
Whoa.
Yeah, and I think that also just being around him, and then just being in my childhood home, and it just, everything was kind of like, I wanted to create like I just wanted my day-to-day life to be more peaceful, and to just be like a more like grounded experience, you know. And so I don't even know what the original question was, but that's really what I try to do with this album, is I try to create like an atmosphere of like peace, and I think that's the headspace I was trying to be in as well.
Yeah.
Was to just kind of be like almost as distraction free as possible, and just focus on being an artist, and you know, yeah.
I felt that. I mean, I think like when I was able to quit my day job last year, it changed the way that I looked at everything. Like, it changed the way that I looked at anything I was making or creating or trying to create. It just, like, it gives you a different headspace where, like, like, the way that I always talk about it is, like, I think before I was able to have that you know, the luxury of quitting my day job, I was definitely, like, whenever I approached a problem with Above the Bridge, I was, like, ramming my head into a brick wall and just hoping it would break because I was ramming it harder than anybody else. But when I was able to kind of take a step back from it, I think I was able to, like, instead of just, you know, going at problems brute force, calculating a more, like, a productive way to move around those problems, you know?
Yeah, for me it was kind of like, when I was working my day job, it was like while I was at my day job, I had to tend to obviously the work that had to be done there. And in my mind, I was like planning for when I get out, I'm going to get these things done. I'm going to get my artist stuff done, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas now that I'm not in that, and I'm kind of, now it's like I don't have to plan to do my creative and artist stuff because I'm always in that space now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I think the life of an artist like is just generally so chaotic that like kind of finding a bit of normalcy can really, and like peace, like you described, I think can bring you a lot of like experience that just changes the music. I mean, it's so weird to me, bro, but like it's interesting because like we started this whole conversation with you talking about how like it's difficult for you to sit down and write something every single day. I think as an artist, some of the most important work that you're doing is living. I think like you really need to chase experience because otherwise what are you going to write about? Are you going to write about writing other songs? You know, like you kind of need to chase experience to get to a place where you have things to write about.
Totally.
And I mean, sometimes life provides that to you itself, but I think at times you need to kind of go out and chase that. But like being in your childhood home and stuff, I'm sure that brought up a whole bunch of emotions that like really went to change the scope of the project.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then I think also being in that space, you begin to see kind of like, I think at least for me, like I started living life like through a new lens, like everything. I kind of just tried harder to see the beauty in everything, you know, and like give myself challenges. Like I think we all have the capability of like, you know, if I told you, like just sit here for 4 hours and write like a 4-page essay on like this table, you know, you could do it. You could definitely do it, and you'd start getting into like, you know, it has like 4 legs, whatever, it's made out of wood, but then you'd start also writing about like, you know, like maybe like a metaphoric you know, like significance of the table, and like I don't know, it's just like a like kind of just like a what's the word? Like, I don't know, like a mundane object that you kind of pay like no significance to. Yeah. But it's kind of here all the time. You place stuff on top of it. It kind of gets like neglected, and I don't know. You could write so much about it, and you can give it so much significance. And I think I started to kind of live through that lens and kind of push myself more to, you know, like see a sign on like the side of the highway or something that I, you know, that's a few words, like, and turn that into a song, like, you know.
I mean, that's kind of like thinking like an artist. You know, I think sometimes having the space from like a really rigorous day job can do that for you. Do you guys work like normal day jobs? How do you manage kind of balancing that with some of the music stuff? Does it ever get discouraging trying to be in a place where you're like in the correct mindset to be creating while also like working like a 9-to-5 job?
You know what? Just a little bit. You know, I'm a server at a restaurant. You know, it's different every day, and like you're always doing something,
Don't
always
mind
on
me.
your toes.
Are those all for you?
brother?
Yeah. Beer.
There's only 3.
More beer.
I already ate 2, so you guys are good.
Okay.
But like when I get back home, it's just like, okay, I'm back. I'm leaving my stuff at work. You know, everything that's on my mind. I'm not in work mode. I'm in creative mode. I'm in Marcus mode.
Wow.
Start doing my thing, right?
Is it easy for you to separate the two?
Yes, 100%.
Nice.
Yeah. You know, it's like going into work. You leave everything out. Everything.
Yeah.
You know, everything going on in your personal life. You don't want to, you know, translate that into your work.
This man's sleep schedule is fucking mind-boggling because our rooms are right next to each other. And it'll be like 12 a.m. and he's hammering away at the guitar, and I'm like, "Yo, Mark, I'm trying to go to sleep, dude." And then it'll be like
some freedom.
It'll be like it'll be like a couple times like 6 a.m. This man's playing guitar again. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I'm trying to fucking sleep. I don't know when you sleep, dude.
My circadian rhythm's fucked.
Dude, that's the life of being a server, though.
Yeah,
it's fucked. Did you feel the same way, Chris? Like about managing the two?
Actually, no. Because I'm a server as well, but I
feel you guys. I did it for so long.
I feel
and I
like
think I'm probably gonna have to go back when I move into that new space. So so I feel you.
But I feel like for me, I can't control when I'm gonna be creative or not. So I try to give myself an open tool always to properly captivate on that like creativity at the time, whether it be at work or not. So like say I'm out driving to work and I'm listening to something and my brain just starts flowing, my notes are completely filled with just like ideas, lyrics, everything. And then on the flip side, like I use other tools that's like, if I'm like working on a song and I'm like, oh, that'd be a nice bass part, or I think the drum should sound like that, I just do a voice memo and I look insane at work because I'll go to the back and I'll be like, and I'll like fucking like, I look like so stupid, but it's like it helps. Like I'm writing it down, and then. But it's hard because...
I hope that wasn't the beat, by the way.
No, it was not the beat. Whatever it was, that was not it. But yeah,
Start
I just think
beatboxing into the phone.
Yeah, right. No, but I think it's hard to always, like, you can never tell, like, you can't tell your brain, like, you need to be creative at this time.
Sure.
So it's like when you were being really creative, having those tools on a ready at any given moment to, like record or like write down an idea, that's really important.
Dude, 100%. I mean, I think, and not to like knock anybody who doesn't operate in that way, but I do think that kind of, to me, is what being an artist means.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not being able to sleep because you have those fucking ideas that you just
like
can't get out of your
creative.
brain. Dude, I do this thing, and I realized this, you know, my parallel is just things that I do with Above the Bridge. Well, I always sleep with my phone like on the other side of my room, and there's been so many times where like I put my phone away, ready to go to bed or whatever, and then I'm sitting in my bed and I just have an idea and I'm like, fuck, I gotta get up and write this down in my notes now. Like that happens to me so often. But I think it's a testament to the fact that you really love this, you know? I think you should be thinking about it 24/7, 365, but I think on the other side of the coin, that can become very like stressful and like it's hard to balance it sometimes.
I think there's a healthy way to balance it in the sense of like, I feel like a lot of artists, you're just looking at the little details, and that's what you should be paying attention to, because if you're trying to force yourself to see the bigger picture right away, you're just forcing yourself to. But if you are always in that creative mindset of like, oh, I like this little thing, I like that, and you're building your own portfolio in your mind of like what you do and don't like, that's what I feel like that's what's going to help like round you out and be more, you know, like evened out with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I feel that way with everything in a way. I think sometimes it can get so daunting to try to like put the dots together in your future, because there's just no way to predict what's going to happen, what's going to unfold, how things are going to look. And I think like the life of an artist is so incredibly uncertain, like always. But you just need to kind of have this like delusional self-belief that it's going to work out. I think that's what like really sets you apart, and like that's, I think the love is what instills the self-confidence in you to keep going. Like you really have to love this. Like you have to love it to almost an unhealthy degree, I think, to pursue it sometimes.
I was just talking about that today. Like I say this to people often, like I wouldn't recommend this line of work to anybody.
Sure.
Because it's so fucking tough. It's so hard. So if you're gonna do it, you have to love it, and you have to you know, be ready to be so fucking committed to it. And it's hard. Like you're not gonna be able to get by, and I mean you might be able to, but I don't know if it's gonna be an authentic, you know, journey. But yeah, you have to be able to like fully commit and love it so much, you know what I mean, where it's like you can't live without it.
Yeah,
you know?
It's such a weird process, because when you think about it, at the end of the day, you're like selling your emotions. It's like what you're doing. You're like putting yourself out there 24/7, 365, and hoping that somebody relates to you. And you can make the best songs ever, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. And that is, I think, the scariest part, is that it's so uncertain. Like there's a chance that nobody ever feels what you're saying, and that's just how human beings operate, you know?
Right.
When you guys, I mean, I would ask you guys too, trying to balance the whole server thing. When you get in a place where you feel discouraged, or you feel like it's difficult to kind of try to like, you know, have the motivation to work on music stuff when you're working a pretty laborious day job, how do you kind of reinstill that love in yourself? Like, what are the things that you have to remind yourself of to keep going?
I think for me, instead of trying to convince myself, I think I just try to base off of my feelings. So if I'm not feeling music that day, but I still really want to work on it, I just come at it a completely different angle. Say one song, it's like I've been working on just guitar all week, and it's like I feel like I get home and I'm too discouraged to work on that. I'm just gonna work on a drum beat, or like pull up a drum machine, or do a synth chord, and just like try to just have fun with it, rather than trying to treat it like this big important thing. It's like, okay, give my brain a break while still being productive and working on my craft.
And I think the key to that is also like you're still being you're still being revolved around music.
Sure.
You're still kind of in that mindset, but you're not focusing you're not putting your complete focus into just that one thing.
Sure.
course,
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like, it's interesting, but I think sometimes, like, not working on music can be the most productive thing you do for your music.
Oh, I think I think giving yourself a break too from not even your own music and the sense of creating, but like driving home and not listening to music, or just
Sure.
like giving yourself a break from just like over stimulating your brain when it comes to music.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that space, I think, sometimes can give you so much clarity.
Yeah, it gives you space and a place to breathe. So
Yeah.
it can give you a new perspective.
Did you guys have other projects prior to Israel's Arcade?
No.
No?
I haven't, but this
I
guy
have,
did.
Yeah,
This
I have
guy.
like side projects and stuff like that, but this is like my main goal right
Gotcha.
here. Yeah.
How did you guys all meet?
High school.
High school. Oh, you all went to high school
You're
together?
not gonna shout out the side projects, dude?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is your chance, bro.
Yeah,
He shouted you out in the last interview.
You did?
Yeah, if I remember
I
correctly.
fuck with you, bro.
I fuck with you heavy.
And yeah, my main side project is Aoster.
Okay,
for
sick.
my it's just like solo music. It started off as electronic, but as it grew, it became something like where it currently stands is very different. But
Nice.
my work method is so I just get too distracted with making new things that I can never like put anything out. So
Yeah.
I get very, but yeah, that's my main stuff is Aoster.
Damn. Okay, that's sick. I'll have to check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you guys all met in high school. When I'm curious too, 'cause this is cool. Because last time I interviewed you, we didn't really talk about like the band dynamic a lot. But what when did you kind of hit the point where this became serious? Like when did you kind of cross that threshold where it was like we met in high school and we're jamming to like, oh, like we want to pursue the band?
I think for me, it was after like our first venue.
Why'd you look at me like that?
Oh no, I was just thinking.
It was like our first, like when we played at first, like I think it was either El Cid.
Uh huh.
It was like our first venue. Like it was after like FTG or something. I was like, holy shit.
Damn, rip FTG.
I know, man.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's gone,
told
right?
you.
Gone.
What?
I thought I told you that. Yeah, FTG's
Yeah,
gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sucks.
But like seeing so many people in our crowd, like as like a headliner, I'm like, holy shit, this is real. Like, oh my god, that's when I really thought. That's when I thought that, or started to think that this was a real time thing, and we had to like invest more time into it because look at all these people.
Yeah.
These people want more.
Yeah.
I give them more.
I remember you talking about Israel, how a lot of your upcoming was like playing a bunch of house shows and stuff. What did you meet these guys like post that era of you doing that?
Marcus was definitely there for some of the house show era. I don't think Chris ever did a house show with us. You're like, fuck.
no.
What was your first show with us? Oh, it was at on the Polo Grounds.
Yes. Yeah.
That place isn't there anymore.
The date shed.
The date shed. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an office now.
No shit.
Yeah.
Damn, it's crazy how we
Golden
just
Voice,
talked
yeah.
about 3 venues and 2 of them are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really speaks to the state of
Wow.
fuck,
True.
dude. Damn.
Yeah, but so Chris and I mean, we were in the jazz band together in high school, but we never really talked.
I knew Israel, but I don't think Israel knew me. I remember like. Yeah, you made an impression, I think, on the whole class back in the day.
Wait, was the shit about the guitar true?
Anyways.
No, it's been enough time. Yeah, I stole things.
You stole his guitar?
I stole things from the music program.
I know
And
people
then,
who
we sold them and we bought beer.
No.
it's low-key a better use of the money.
Not the beer part,
Dude,
but not the beer part.
What's insane though is like I don't think we realized like how much those things were worth at the time. That we were like low-key just like trading shit. We were like, we have a fucking Gibson. Can you buy us beer, dude? Like, what the?
They're
fuck
like, yeah,
was
we'll get you a 6-pack for the Gibson.
I think it was literally like a 12.
You're like, great deal.
Or I could get you 2 tall boys and a Red Bull.
4 locos and a pack of blues.
Yeah, I had a friend who stole a bunch of things from our jazz program in high school, but it just like he didn't sell them; they just became his studio.
Hell yeah, that's a smart man.
That's he was smart.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
smart.
man.
He was smart with it.
But Marcus had videos of himself on Instagram playing covers to
Mac
some
DeMarco.
Yeah.
Back to Marco.
And I remember seeing Marcus at school. We never really talked. I think we
talked once, dude, and I'll never forget.
Oh yeah.
We had a mutual friend. I was in her class. I'm a year older than Israel, so our friend was in my grade, but they became friends. So anyways, never talked to Israel for like the 4 years I was in this high school. First thing he says to me is that I look like Richard Ramirez.
Oh my god.
And I was like, who's that? And he's like, you know, the guy with like the fucking
The serial killer.
Yeah. I was like, oh. And then the bell rang and I just went to my class. And
Actually, I think
only time.
the only interaction I remember with Israel before I joined the band.
I don't know what you're gonna say. Right
Yeah,
now.
no, it was, I was walking upstairs to my second. I think I was a sophomore, and I was walking upstairs. And I had just bought some Doc Martens, and he like looks at me, he's like, "Nice shoes," and that was it. That was like, I remember you had like
Such a little pretentious prick.
you had like your like leopard like jacket on or something. I like,
That shit's still
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
dude.
He's like, now I respect you because you have dogs.
I think he also had dogs on, and they were super similar to like the ones I had. Like we were like pretty similar in shoe, so like yeah, nice shoes.
when you guys were in high school, did you know music was what you wanted to do?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
it was
Uh,
always
for
a thing.
Me, not really.
No?
I just funny enough, I just picked up a bass and just wanted to learn a couple cover songs like
Yeah.
"Feel Good Inc." by Gorillaz. You know, I wanted to learn that infamous bass line. And then I just became like a cover boy, man, and then just started posting stuff on my Instagram at the time, you know, in 2019. And Israel hit me up with the fucking question, "You want to come down to the Coachella Valley?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
And then so he joined, and then I released an album under not Aoster, but this is like big throwback. My original project was called Global Boy Chris.
Yo, is that a rap project?
Oh, no, but it was it's still on SoundCloud technically, but yeah, I just released it like kind of like just like a whatever instrumental, and then he sent it to the band like. And I was only gonna play like for like 2 weeks or like 2 shows or something.
It just stuck.
And yeah, they just like I remember being told that like my first practice is like, oh yeah, you'll play like 2 or 3 shows, and then they kept inviting me back to practice.
Yeah, dude, that's the same thing you told me, man. Like,
so,
just do 2 shows for me, man. I was like, okay.
That's my little trick.
Did it get you guys to stick around?
Yeah.
Do another show.
What if you did another one?
Yeah, right.
No, but Chris with Global Boy Chris, I remember he made like CDs, and the CDs were I thought they were
They're
so cool.
sick.
Yeah.
Because it was just
It's
like a photo of Chris, just like I don't know.
It's like
just
a Keanu
fucking
Reeves thing, right?
posing.
It was like a Keanu Reeves
Yeah, I was.
thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I ripped
Yeah.
off a photo that Keanu Reeves did.
Oh, that's hard.
for the album
shit.
cover. Yeah, yeah.
That's hard.
what it is.
Yeah.
When you, Israel, when you kind of established this band, like post kind of that house show era, when you were kind of trying to do it yourself more so, did it feel right instantly? Like, how did you know, like, you're like, oh, like, we got something here?
I'm being so real right now. I think at the time when I was like, I think I was still in high school around that time, or had just graduated high school. But I think my ego was pretty big at the time, and we were like playing a lot of house shows, and I just like was really competitive and just like wanted to be the best in the scene. Like I remember that was like my thinking. I was like, we got to be the best band.
Yeah.
And so I always believed in us. Like I always knew that like every person in the band had something special going on, and so yeah, I think I always believed in what we had going on, and by the time we got to playing shows outside of the Coachella Valley, I knew we were ready. Like I knew I mean, I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't really like. I remember when I was like 15, I came to see some shows at the Echo, like it was like Pennyback Fest. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
It sounds familiar.
It was cool. It was like I don't know if the Echoplex was a part of it, but it was the Echo and like the outside patio area, and it was like a whole fucking festival with like all of the like poppin' bands at the time, and I remember like. Yeah, I think that show did a lot for me. Like I got to see like I don't know, a lot of my favorite bands at the time, and they just looked massive on like the Echo stage. Like I remember that stage looked fucking massive to me. And and I think I just had so much confidence at the time that I was like, yeah, we could go head to head with these guys.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think I had like a, what would you call it, like almost just like a false sense of confidence, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think every artist has that though. I mean, I always call it, me and my friend McLean always describe this as the idea of delusional self-belief, which I think is like really, really present in a lot of artists, but I almost think it's necessary.
It's yeah,
I think it's really necessary, dude. Like, cause I mean, like, look at the facts. Like, to make this work as a musician, like, you are 1 in 1,000. You're 1 in 10,000. What do they say? It's like it's like. I think I remember somebody told me this recently, but I think it's like if you have 1,000 monthly listeners, you're at like the top 0.1% of Spotify, which is like crazy to think about. Like 99% of people who have put out music on Spotify don't have 1,000 monthly listeners, which is like kind of a crazy idea to grasp. But it's like you have to be willing to sacrifice everything, man. And I think like in the early days, I mean, what you were just describing going to that show, I mean, I feel very similarly. I think having the luxury of meeting some really cool and like influential people to me, like early in what I was doing, it really showed me that it was possible. I think like sometimes you just need somebody to show you that like you're not that far off from where your goals are, and that we're all human, and that you can get there. And it's cool too meeting some of those people, especially when they're as cool as you thought they would be, and kind of looking up to them and like, you know, kind of growing with them. I think sometimes when you find somebody that really shows you that this stuff is possible, you just look up and you're there.
Right.
You know? What do you guys think between the debut album and the sophomore album and that period in between, I guess moving more so into the present, what were kind of the biggest lessons you learned from this period of like, you know, going from playing smaller shows to playing a lot of bigger shows, some festivals, some headlining spots? Like, I mean, like you're about to play a sold out show at the Constellation Room, like that's really, really sick, and going all these tours and stuff throughout that process and kind of like learning how to like grow this fan base. What do you think were the biggest lessons that you guys learned in the past year?
Man, I don't know, but I'm still like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but like Ozzy Osbourne still like, he's like scared before going on stage because he thinks that nobody's gonna show up. Like I think I feel the same way, and I think a lot of that is like fueled by fear that like, you know, like just like everything and everybody is going so fast right now. Like it's so easy to like go on Instagram and see like so many people just fucking putting out shit like that, you know, like a machine, and feeling like, you know, you need to keep up and you need to catch up, you know. So I think a lot of that is like fueled by fear, and I was like, I just can't stop. We have to keep pushing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's a cool way to put that. I think I've like soul searched sometimes and gotten back to a place where I really began to think about my motivations, and I think recently I've realized how much of my motivation is fueled by fear, and I don't know if that's healthy. Like I think like it's hard to sometimes work on the idea that you're running from something, or like work on the idea that like fear of failure is what keeps you going. And I think sometimes you have to try to find a way to balance, like, am I doing this because I'm afraid of failing, or am I doing this because I really love it? And you got to get back to the things I think that really make you love this, you know.
And I think it was like what you were saying earlier, like hope really is, you know, it's definitely something that I try to practice like every single day, is just being hopeful and just remembering, you know, just keeping the goal in sight, and just knowing that like this is like we're not there yet. Like I still think it's like insane to hear people just being like, you guys are doing so good already, you guys are fucking doing it. But I know in the grand scheme of things we're still so small. Like that's still how I see, like how I view, you know, us. I think we have a long way to go, and I think part of that reason, like I don't feel like any sort of, you know, I don't feel like I'm above anybody. You know, even people who are just starting out, you know, in the scene or whatever. Like I don't feel like I'm above them at all, because I feel like we're in the same boat. Like I'm doing the same thing you're doing. You know, maybe I started a little sooner or whatever, but you know, I have this goal, and I still have a fucking long ways to go, and it's so fucking easy to lose hope. It's so easy, especially now. Like I mean, I think this started, at least for me, when I was like, I don't know, like 16, when like artists like Lil Pump were like becoming fucking so popular and famous and rich, like, you know, when they were that age too, when they were like fucking 16. And
I really relate to that.
yeah, and it was like, oh fuck, like I think I might have missed it, like I think, you know, I think my time is done,
dude.
But I think the way I tackle that issue is by reminding myself that we're not trying to be like overnight internet sensations, you know. Like I'm gonna be an artist my entire life, like till I die. This isn't really like a choice, like I'm gonna so I have to keep pushing, you know, because this is who I am. I don't know if that's too crazy to say, but
no, dude, it's not at all. I mean, first off, that's really valuable. I think you never, and this is just from knowing you, like you never give the impression that you're above anybody. I think that is something that's really, really important in the artist mindset, to never feel like you're above anybody, bro. I mean, like, we talked about this in the last interview, but like kind of like being open to learning like your entire career and never giving somebody the cold shoulder, and always willing to take a band that, like, you know, might be in a whatever, like I guess numerically a smaller place than you or whatever, like take them and like say like, yo, like you can do this, or like these are the things that we went through when we were like a smaller band. And then because you do that, I think, and you're open to that, you have the same selflessness to look at a band that's above you that might take you on tour and be like, yo, like what can we learn from you? Like what are the biggest lessons that we could take from you guys? I think being a musician is growing every single day, and I think like the second that you close yourself off to those lessons personally, you're done. You gotta always be open to learning, bro. Like your entire career. I think that goes with what you were saying about being an artist your entire life. This isn't like, I think anybody that finds instant success and instant gratification in this almost always regrets that they found it, because I think that fizzles out immediately. Right.
Yeah. What you were saying earlier about like helping people out and kind of almost like putting them on game. You know what I mean? Like I think I tried to practice that a lot, especially within the last like year and a half, and I found that it kind of backfired on me. Like I think I tried too hard to help people, just because I was really passionate about it, but just like try to tell people like, hey, like we did this, we could have done this better, like you guys should do this, and then them, you know, not really listening and just kind of or doing it and then just kind of like brushing me off and forgetting, you know what I mean? Like it just became like a weird thing. And so I think I reached a point where I was like, I think I need to stop trying so hard to like help people and put people on and only really help if they're asking for it. Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's difficult too, because like I could see a scenario from a smaller band where it might seem like, you know, a band that's further along that's trying to give them like lessons or whatever. Like if you are too forthright about it, I could see it coming across like, oh, this person thinks they're like better than me or something. But that's never what it is. Yeah. You know, I think you got to keep trying to do that, bro. I think like you got to keep trying to like, because the reality is like, and not say that like you're above anybody, but the reality is the reality is that you've been doing this for 7-8 years, right? I mean, longer. Like you definitely learned a lot in that's a long period of time. Yeah. Like I think there's a lot that anybody who is beginning this can learn from a band that's been doing this for like 8, 9, 10 years, just from failing. You know, like I think the more you fail, the more you learn. And I think sometimes some of those smaller bands or newer bands just haven't had the experience to fail yet. I think that's really important, bro, to keep failing. I think you should always be chasing failure, you know?
That's a crazy take. Why do you think that?
I think failure is the only way to learn, because I think it's the only way to actually conceptualize what it means to fail and like what it means to lose. I mean, like I think that like when I first moved to LA, and I'll never forget this. The very first day I moved to LA, I moved down here the day before. Well, actually, no, I didn't move down here. I had driven down from the Bay Area to sign our lease, and like do all the paperwork with our landlord. So I was down here for like 2 days before my roommates moved in, and there was nothing here. It was just like an empty house, and it was just me, and I was alone. And it was weird. I remember like sleeping on the floor of this house just by myself in this city that I'd like barely ever been in. It was so weird. But I brought like one car full of things down, and it wasn't very much stuff. It was like I didn't bring, you know, we didn't like have the U-Haul yet or anything, so I just brought like some clothes and some things from my room, and I had this whiteboard, and I was kind of just like journaling on it. Yeah. And I'll never forget like sitting on my living room floor and just like writing this like massive just like thing on this whiteboard, and all I could think about was how much I wanted to embrace the failures that I would experience here. That was like a big thing about moving out of the house for me. It was like I really want to chase fear. I think you should always be chasing fear. I think it's one of the most important things that you can do as a human being, as a musician, as whatever. I think like chasing that fear and like really like figuring out why it scares you is the only way to get to the other side of it.
Putting yourself into those uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, exactly. What do you
That's so weird that you say that, because I feel like I've been hearing that in different forms a lot lately. Just people telling me like maybe you should fuck up, like maybe like in some form saying like maybe you should maybe you shouldn't be too careful in how you handle this, because maybe it can turn into something else.
I strongly believe that.
And I disagree.
Really?
I disagree, because I'm like, you know, I have this, you know, thing that I care about so much, this baby that I have been nurturing for so long. I want to treat it with care. And, you know, it's almost like a fragile thing that I don't want to mess with it too much. I only want to put it in situations where I could thrive. You know?
No, I totally get that.
But I understand what you're saying as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole mindset changes the further you get along. Like, I think another way to say that, and it's something I believe in a lot, is just always saying yes. But I do think that mindset applies more when you're first beginning. I don't necessarily think that, like, you know, the further you get along, like, you obviously shouldn't say yes to everything. But I think, like, in the beginning, when there's no leads and there's no motion, I think the best thing you can do is say yes. I had this like weird,
especially like in a big city like LA, like you want to meet as many people as you possibly fucking can, and you want to make those connections and friendships and you know, so that's very important.
I had this experience recently, and it was really weird, but like a friend of mine, it was kind of like a mutual friend, she had reached out to me, and I promise when I say this, it doesn't come out of arrogance or me thinking that I'm like far into my career, because I'm certainly not. But she reached out to me, and she literally like point blank was just like, "How do you do what you do?" That was like what she asked, and I was like, "That's a really like general question." Right. And I was like, "Okay, so what do you mean?" And she was like pretty much explaining like, "Well, like I feel like you're around so many artists, and like you've been able to like put yourself in these scenarios where like you have access to these people and these things and, you know, opportunities and whatever." And I thought for so long like what to tell this person, because I didn't know, like I almost felt unworthy of giving advice, but at the same time I felt like, I don't know, I was just conflicted in what I should say to her, and everything I thought about, I mean, I thought about it for probably like an hour before I responded, and everything that
Step one, have an amazing personality. Step two, be so intelligent.
Well, thank you, man. You're the sweetest. I appreciate it. But like, I couldn't figure out what to tell her, and like what I just kept going back to was just say yes. And I was thinking about like, how did I get this off the ground, like at all? And I was thinking about the early days, and I was like, dude, I said yes to everything when I lived in the Bay Area. Everything. Like, I would interview any artist that approached me. I didn't even care if I liked their music. I just wanted to hear their story. Like, it was so much rooted in that I said yes to everything, bro. If somebody was like, come to this video shoot, I was like, okay. Come to this show, okay. Come do this interview, okay. Come to this live session, sure. I just did everything. And it taught me so many lessons that I don't think I could have learned from sitting in my room and thinking about it. I think I had to experience it, and I had to realize why. I'm like, okay, I had to realize like why I want to interview these kinds of artists, and like what I look for in somebody I want to talk to, and like, you know, what kind of shows I want to throw, and like what kind of shows I don't want to throw, and that only came from the experience of saying yes. And
do you think you're selective with the type of artists that you talk to?
I'm way less selective with interviews than I am with shows. I'm way more. I mean, there's like an obvious business level to the shows where like obviously like you can't. It's hard to justify booking a band doesn't sell a lot of tickets. I mean, but at the same time, like I think I talk to people and interview people who like I don't really talk to anybody whose music I don't genuinely like anymore. I did that a lot in the beginning, and I think it taught me a lot and I learned a lot from it, but I think now I know how to have those conversations and I'm more interested in the ones where I really love the music.
Right.
So now I think I'm more selective, and the music has to make me feel something. Or I think there has to be a really interesting story the person has. So I do a lot more research now into the person's background, even sometimes more so than their music. Like, I'll look more into like their background and like what kind of story do I think this person has to tell and how can I get it out of them.
Dude, it's so funny. I was gonna hit you up and tell you like, hey, like there's a lot that I can tell you about the album that maybe like you should know before we do this. And then I was like, nah, Dante's got it. Dante's fucking, he'll be fine.
What were you gonna tell me though? Were there any things?
I don't know. I guess I was just gonna give you some backstory on like where we wrote it and how we wrote it and you know where we recorded it and stuff like that we've already covered.
Okay, cool.
With ease.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean that's what I think is. I mean that's one of my favorite parts about interviewing is like I think artists love their music, which I think is a beautiful thing, and I think like they want to talk about the backstory about it and they want to talk about why they love it and they want to talk about what makes them tick. You know, I think it's hard to go into a conversation with somebody who's that passionate and not get any like results from them. You know.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I just think that saying yes in the early days is so valuable. But I do totally see what you're saying in terms of like being more calculated and like making sure like when you're showing face, what you're putting out, it's very intentional. Dude, I felt that way about your guys' rollout for this project a lot because like going back, like I saw that you kind of wiped like the Instagram and all the socials and like you really were starting anew. It was kind of like this new era of Israel's Arcade. So I was curious, I know you said that you kind of began writing this project almost immediately after the last one came out. When did you kind of envision the aesthetics for the project? And you know, like opposed to just the sonics, right? There's the way it sounds and the way that it feels. When did you kind of realize how you wanted it to feel? Was the aesthetics and the vision there before the sonics came?
No, I think they came about at around the same time, and I think you hit it on the nose when you said the word that it sounds like desert. It sounds deserty.
It totally does.
So that's the biggest theme within this album is, I think I started to see the beauty more in like we're from the desert.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I've had a bunch of buddies who have moved to LA and who have, you know, found a lot of success from that. And would always kind of tell me like, what the fuck are you doing out there? You need to be out here. Like, dude, like my buddy just fucking popped off instantly and like he's not as talented as you guys, you know.
Is that even the goal though? Like that's what the question is, you know.
I don't know, but I knew that there was something that about the Coachella Valley that was keeping me there, and that I had to, like, I knew that I had to be there for some fucking reason. And you know, from talking to different people, like I started just falling in love with the desert more. And you know, like the desert is like a place where people go to fucking
Oh, sorry.
You don't have the headphones. So yeah. Sorry.
It's a place where people go to, you know, like old white people go there to like retire, and then also
that's gotta be a weird fucking experience. Having your hometown just be that's weird.
Yeah, but also a lot of people also go to the desert to, you know, escape like the fast pace of their city life in LA, or you know, just to kind of escape their own lives in general and just kind of be around more quiet and like, you know, tranquility and just escape everything, do fucking mushrooms and just fucking you know, just find themselves, you know. And I knew that there was something like revolved around that to kind of dig deeper, you know. And so I think when we were in Joshua Tree, that was really, for me at least, when I started to like really see the beauty in like, you know, a tree that you know had been dried up and was now fucking like left just dry and like without any leaves and like would look ugly to somebody, but really it looks beautiful and it looks fucking cool. And you know, there's just so many aspects to the desert that I started to realize like this is such a fucking special place.
Yeah.
And that's really what drove like everything for the album. Everything, where like the aesthetic and the themes and the songwriting and how the music sounds.
Yeah.
Like, it's everything. I think it is like a love letter to the desert, in my opinion.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the aesthetics feel like that, and the sonics feel like that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense that you put it like that. I mean, I think one of the coolest things about places like where you guys are from, and like honestly where I'm from too, in the Bay Area, in the East Bay Area, I think some of the coolest stuff about it is the contrast that you draw between that and places like LA, where like, I mean, there's beauty in both, right? But LA is just like, it's like everything pushed to the max, 24/7, 365. You just go, 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 go. Yeah. There's like, you have access to everything all the time. I don't know if humans are meant to be wired that way.
Definitely
like,
not.
I think there's something really special about having to drive 2 hours to get somewhere, or there's something really special about like knowing your neighbors, or something really special about like having very few people around you and having a close, tight-knit circle and having folks that really understand your experience. I mean, what's cool about LA, right, or like any big city, is that like there's a million different experiences and you can like learn about them all, but you'll never truly understand them.
Right.
Like, you understand the experience of the folks that you grew up around in the same place, and they're the only other ones that get what it was like to grow up in the Coachella Valley.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you were just talking to me about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, about a special someone.
Yeah. The girl I'm talking to.
Girl you're talking to? Make it official,
okay,
dude.
my girlfriend. She also is from the Coachella Valley. We're a year off from each other. We went to the same job. She quit 3 months before I joined. Like, yeah, like we had grown up in the same place, but it's crazy because we have very little mutuals. Like, we've like bounced around each other's lives. But
how'd you guys meet?
Tinder. Yeah.
Tinder. You guys still shared the same experiences, right?
Yes, yeah. So it was just this like aspect of like the same experiences of like,
can I share this one with you?
Yeah.
if you it's like things I feel like people only from the valley would understand. Like we were talking about with like the older community there, and like just how much like the summer sucks, and just like a bunch of like how boring it gets at times, but like finding like those fun things to do with your friends rather than because I feel like at a place like LA or San Diego or something, there's always something to go do. Like you can always do. You could always like go and do
Mario
something.
like that one.
But I feel like from the Coachella Valley, you're stuck. Like you have like 3 things to do.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody, and it's just like you have to find fun in different ways. And I think for a lot of us, it's that creative outlet, It's like we're not always on this rush. We're not always. It's expensive to live where we are, but it's not as bad as out here. So it's like if we can still work a full job, still be creative, and still financially be able to keep ourselves balanced.
Yeah, I was watching a podcast. Is this writer that I really like? This like comedy writer, and he was talking about like, he was saying that he finds that his mind, like he can be the most creative when he's around like boredom.
Dude,
like
yes, 100%.
Like I think when you're a creative person and you're not constantly, like fucking on your phone or swiping or playing video games or whatever, and you kind of just sit in a little bit of boredom for a while, like naturally your creative mind will start to occupy itself.
Yeah, dude.
And I think that happens like in a place like that where it's just like ain't shit going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say that's I think how we think. There's so many people, a lot of my friends, where they just give into that like video games as their escape from boredom. And
well, that's why people hate the Valley.
Yeah.
And that's why I hated the Valley too when I was younger. And then that flipped to like, wait, this is actually fucking awesome.
Yeah, it gives us a safe space. I think as creatives, it gives us a safe space where we can breathe and be able to express ourselves like creatively.
Yeah.
But it's also can fall into a deep trap if you don't have like a creative outlet, where it's like a lot of my friends just hate the Valley, and because their life is just like you wake up, go to work, like go home, play games, get high as fuck, jerk off, go to bed, and that's all they fucking do. And it's like, that shit's lame.
But it doesn't have to be like
but
that.
it's kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome though.
Says the dude that you've never played games.
You never play games in your life.
I was the first person. I'm gonna make this official. I was the first person you ever played Mario with.
Oh,
yes.
what?
Yeah.
What Mario?
It was like Mario Wii. Like,
you never played that?
Yeah. Yeah, I got him to play Mario.
I'm lame, dude. I'm lame.
Nah,
Dude.
it's not lame.
It low-key makes you less lame, to be honest.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it's interesting because I really feel that, like, being a creative person in a place like LA, like, don't get me wrong, there's like so many benefits to it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
the
you got
community, all that.
Yeah, there's so. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many benefits about it.
Yeah, easy.
Exactly. But at the same time, I think you actually have to be more disciplined, because I think, like, it's so easy to get, like, so involved with the going out and the extracurriculars and like the, like, I'm gonna go and, like, you know, go to a show every single day because I have to network or whatever. Like, you can get so wrapped up in the life of being in music but not making the music or like making your art or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that can be so easy to do.
Yeah, because
it's like great. You have so many connections, but your music sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because we actually said this earlier today, or I did. It's just like, I think you should take a step back and remember, like, what am I doing this for?
Totally.
If it's for the music, focus on that. You know, make the music your priority. Make it the art you want it to be, rather than, you know. But also, like, the networking and all that. That's super important.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that we don't really experience.
Yeah.
We network, and it's like once you get to, like, a certain range where you're playing, like, just like dive bars, you basically, like, made it out in the valley.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it just is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're, like, famous in the valley if you're playing dive bars.
Really.
Yeah, I've always hated the idea of, like, networking. Like, I don't know. I just, like,
that's not why you do it, though.
I just would rather make friends.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, I cling to the folks that I genuinely like, and, like, I'd rather just become friends with them. And, like,
the idea
you know,
of
work together.
networking is like you're manipulating a friendship.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like friendship with a gain.
But also, because I want to go step back, because you were talking about, like, the pros and cons of, like, living out here.
Yeah.
I think, in a way, the networking and all that, you have to be on that consistent grind, because it is a competition at all
100%.
times out here. Like, you need to be,
Which kind of sucks.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I think I would get so drained from doing that.
I certainly do.
Yeah, I'm not in the music industry to make connections. I'm in it to make music.
Yeah.
Also,
100%.
I know that there's gonna come a point where we have to move out here to LA, and
But is there? Like, I don't know.
I don't think it has.
I think so many artists make it work.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's a strong possibility that's gonna have to happen. Or what I'd ideally like to happen is, like, keep, you know, our house out there, and then also have a little apartment over here, and then just go back and forth, and, you know, like, take care of business here and then go back home. But that's what I would like to ideally happen. But I think that there's a strong possibility of, like, us having to move out here. And I've kind of known that is something that may very well happen. So I've, like, tried to, like, appreciate what we have out there as much as possible, you know? Even if it may seem like it's not all that fun, like, shit is gonna get a whole lot more draining, as you said.
Yeah,
You know?
it can be very overstimulating.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, which I think is a bad thing. I think, like, it's so easy to, like, dude, like, I realized this very recently, and, like, it's there's pros and cons to it, but I think I'm around so many, like, up and coming musicians now. I never go to shows of, like, artists that I grew up listening to anymore, and, like, I really miss doing that. But I like, last week I went to 5 shows, and, like, that was awesome. Don't get me wrong, like, that's the privilege of a lifetime. That is massively, like, I love that. But, like, I don't go see, like, bands that I grew up listening to and I know every single word of that often anymore. And I think that is such an LA thing. It's like, you want to go to every show because there's all these bands you love, and that's beautiful and stuff, but sometimes it can get difficult because I get FOMO a lot. I think it's really easy to get, like, the fear of missing out. Like, I need to be at this show because this show's gonna be crazy and this artist's gonna do this and whatever. But it's like, I almost missed when I lived in the Bay Area and there wasn't three shows every single night. You know,
I kind of want to ask you a question. Though,
Yeah.
So in that aspect of like, you said 5 shows last. That's insane.
I went to
Like,
5 shows last week.
Dude,
Yeah,
I go to like a show a month. Like,
Yeah.
and that usually it's just because I'm playing it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not really. But I have an interesting question. So if you're, do you think
my
it's
God.
better to be on that? Or like, do you think it's
That was like a
better to be? I
chopper.
know that was loud.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Do you think it's better to be on that consistent grind where you're always being in that competitive mindset where it's just like go 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 and you're just trying to like always just push out
Yeah.
or do you think it's better to pull back, really spend your time on making a beautiful product and then just releasing a really big like a boom?
I think it's a huge balance.
Yeah.
I think like I make a very conserved effort, and I mean like last week was cool because it was just like a bunch of artists I loved having to play, but I make a really conserved effort to only go to shit that I want to go to, like, and that was something that I was terrible at when I first moved here, bro.
Right.
Like I would go to shit where I was like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I was like maybe I should, but I would just go, and I was like, I got so burnt out from that, like
course,
so fast, and I think I mean, earlier you kind of brought up like Eminem doing like kind of the 9 to 5 in the studio thing.
Yeah.
I think there's a ton of merit to that. Like I live a very similar lifestyle to that. Like I kind of work 9 to 5 on creative stuff, and then, you know, my 5 to 9, like I'm either, you know, going to a show with my friends, which like I love doing that, or like I'm like, all right, well today I feel like I should just hang out and read, or whatever, hang out, you know, go hang out with a friend or whatever. But like, it's a big balance. I think it's so easy to like get so much in this mindset of like go to everything, be at everything, and it can be hard. I think it can convolute why you love this really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think like I'm always chasing the feeling of like seeing an artist that really blows me away, and that maybe is why I love going to shows too, because it's like I mean, I discover a lot of music from the live world, and I think like I'm always chasing that feeling of like being blown away in a set, and that's really fun. Yeah,
that's the best feeling. But yeah, what you were saying about like you're always going to shows, but they're not shows that they're like artists that you know love listening to or grew up with or whatever. I felt like that same exact thing recently as well, where there was an artist that came to play at Pappy and Harriet's in Joshua Tree, which is very close to us.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy like it got me so excited, and that's when I had the epiphany, like, holy shit, like I really don't go see like bands that I like actually, you know, listened to before like we were doing all this or whatever. Like we just go see our friends, which is also fucking awesome. It's super fun, and you get to hang out with your buddies, and you're also proud of them, and that's also part of it, because it's like it feels fucking awesome.
Of course.
But going to a show where, you know, what happened?
That was the bug zapper.
Oh, nice.
We got one.
With the,
We got him.
Hell yeah. You know, the feeling of just like being fuck, I hope I don't sound like an asshole saying this, but like just being like in the back of the crowd and just like not knowing anybody is like, it just, well, when you have so many friends who are doing this, like you kind of get used to like a different show experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just like going to see like an old artist that you like grew up listening to or whatever is like, I kind of I don't know, that kind of was a thing that like stopped for me for a while. I'm trying to get back into it again because I miss it. And I remember when I was buying the tickets to go see that artist, like I was so excited, dude.
Yeah,
I was so excited.
I know exactly what you mean. Like I was thinking about this. I went to the Archero show the other day that they did at the Fox. It was so sick.
It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I had this realization where it was like, because I got in the pit at the end and I was like, damn, bro. When I was 16, I was in every single fucking pit at every single show, like going insane. And I was like, why have I become like the music industry weirdo that sits in the back of the crowd and just like nods their head? I was like, that's so lame. I was like a crowd surf for the first time in a long time, and I was like, damn, bro, like I missed the part of me that was like a kid that craved like being rowdy and like getting in a pit and like being stupid. And like I get it, like people grow up.
Right.
I really like. I miss that part of me, you know?
But I think that also ties back into what you were saying earlier about just a balance.
Sure.
You know, I think there's a healthy balance about going to shows and remembering like why you love to go to shows versus like you do it all the time. If you were just being like a party animal, fucking stage diving every fucking 5 shows last week, like that's
dead.
too much. Yeah, that's too much. So having that good healthy balance in life with everything you do, not just the way that you write music, not just the way you go to shows, not just the way that you communicate, like every single aspect of life that we've talked about like with this tonight, it just boils down, in my opinion, to balance and about like finding your healthy balance. Yeah,
100%. This is like a strange tie-in, but I'm like a very big baseball fan, and I was listening. Are you too?
Yeah.
you got it.
Are you a Dodgers fan?
Yeah, I am.
Congratulations. Must feel great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm an A's fan.
Oh my God! Hey, you swept us.
I know.
Yeah. You should feel proud.
The biggest dub of the season.
You should feel proud, man.
Yeah, I was happy. Oh yes.
Hey, we can go. We can just leave.
Yeah, get out, guys. You know, Coachella has no baseball teams.
Let's talk baseball.
Smoke break.
But I watched this baseball podcast, and they were interviewing. It was some legend. I don't remember. I think it was CeCe Sabathia they were interviewing, and they were talking about like as a baseball player, the big importance of keeping your head. Like not getting too high with the highs, not getting too low with the lows, and always remaining positioned exactly in the middle. I think that's really true for music, bro. I think like as a musician or anybody who works in art or whatever, the highs can be so high. Like you can be like, oh my God, I just played this crazy sold out show, or like I just threw this crazy sold out show, or like I just interviewed this crazy or whatever, right? The highs can be so high and so exciting, but the lows can be so low where like nothing's happening right now. No one gives a shit, I'm a loser. That I think is very present when they're making art, because you're giving so much of like your personality and like your emotion to it. It's so personal and like intertwined with you. But I think there's so much merit to being the kind of artist that just keeps their head in the middle as much as they possibly can. Always like having things that ground you, whether that's like I'm gonna work out every morning on tour, or like I'm gonna like read every night before I go, whatever. Just having things that make you a human being, because I think sometimes working in art or being an artist can make you feel so inhuman. It's so strange and unique and different, which is a blessing, but it can be very isolating.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you guys I'm curious, growing up and like kind of like easing your way into like like you said, you were kind of like pretty much in some capacity full-time in art now. As you've like found more and more success in this, what's your family's kind of take on everything been? Have they been, or were they in music themselves, or like were they so far from it that like watching it has been a new experience for them? Like how have they kind of like reacted to you guys playing some bigger shows and going on big tours and stuff?
Go for it.
Well, at first, when I agreed to playing in Israel's Arcade, coming back to my mom's, I told her I was gonna be in a band, and obviously, she didn't like that, But fast forward, dude, doing all these big shows and telling my mom like, oh my God, we just played in front of 200 people, and then she started seeing like, oh, okay, like this is okay, you guys are taking off, like that's cool. Hey mom, we're going on tour with this really big band. Or like we're going on our first tour, our headlining tour. She's like, "Oh my God, congratulations! Blah, blah, blah. I'm so happy for you. I always believed in you." The switch up. It's a switch up.
Switch up.
Yeah, but that's how it kind of was with my family.
Nice.
Yeah.
For my family, my dad is a musician, so he immediately, like when I started getting more and more into it, because they were always just kind of like supportive of it. They thought it was more just like a fun like weekend thing. Until it became like where it is now. And my dad was always supportive. I was telling you about that. Like he bought like both my synths I use for the live shows and my saxophone.
Wow.
And like he's always been just a supporter of me pursuing what I love to do. And I really don't think I would be able to support myself and pursue it as much as I have been able to without him, and without
That's so cool.
that like love for seeing me pursue what I love.
Yeah, he probably gets it so much more because he's in music.
Oh yeah, and he just like Yeah, he's like not a musician anymore in the sense of like he doesn't really do it much anymore, but like he used to just play like piano or bass or whatever they need at like church and stuff like that. But like he's so talented. That dude's better at piano than me by like a long run. That guy's awesome. But yeah, I think he just sees the spark in it, and he wants to like just like. I mean, yeah, he just wants to help, just see me pursue what I love to do.
That's beautiful.
That I'm very fortunate for that. You know?
That's really cool. Yeah. What about you, Joe?
I feel like where my parents are now is like, I think first of all, I think they see how hard we work, and they've mentioned that to me before. Like my mom has told me that like in the beginning, like she was like, well, like I think she would have preferred for me to like go to university and stuff like that at first, and then like I remember her telling me like she came to a point where she was just like, well, you seem like you're busy all the time, like you're not just sitting on the couch all day long, like you're getting shit done, and you're fucking hopping on calls with people, and like like it seems like you're busy, and it seems like you're really trying to get something going, and since then, like, so my parents had a band when they were in high school and college. Yeah, my dad was a drummer, my mom was a singer, my uncles played guitar, and
that's so cool.
Yeah, and so there was actually like a VHS interview that somebody did of their band when they played at like their community college, and it was like. The interview was like along the lines of like, so like, what do you guys see the next step being for your band? And they were just like, well, like we don't know, like if we end up taking off, then that's that's just where life takes us, but if not, we'll continue our studies, so they saw a possibility of their band like booming at some point, and they were great, they were so good. I think they could have really like done really well. But I think in some way they're like really supportive, because I think a part of them is like they're getting to see happen, like the things that they're getting to see that's happening for us is like, basically what I'm trying to say is like I think that they are kind of in some way living their dreams through, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think that that's really cool and really special, and I think that they're really proud of us. Like definitely. They always let us practice in their garage and make as much fucking noise as we wanted, and that's all you could ask for from like an artist's parents, you know what I mean? Just to let them run wild, and they definitely did that.
I feel like that's one of the coolest parts I would imagine about having a kid is like kind of getting a second chance at a lot of stuff, like kind of like they're like your vehicle to different parts of your life that you never got to experience. Yeah, there's something I think really, really special about that, right? Like kind of being able to watch them do it and know that you're a part of it, just intrinsically.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, yeah. I've been very lucky. That they've always been very supportive, and they show up to the shows. Sometimes they won't. Like I'll invite them and they'll just be like, I'm kind of tired. But if I tell them like, hey, this is a special one, they'll be there, and that's so special. I never take that for granted.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, man. That's so beautiful. Yeah. Talking more about some of the songs of the album, I think one thing that I really love about this project is a lot of the melodic work. I think I grab onto a ton of the melodies on this project, especially the Rumblefish, the second song, right? Yeah. The melody on that song really, really stuck with me, and a bunch of other melodies vocally.
That's the one that has 2 chords only.
Yeah, I know, but just the vocal melody really sticks with me. So that was something that I noticed in the project in terms of like things that really changed. But I was curious, between the 2 projects, what do you guys think are the biggest things that you improved upon? And like, what are you most proud of in terms of like the differences between the 2 projects, and what do you feel like you really hit the nail on the head with for this one?
I think what we really hit the nail on, the biggest differences between this album and the first album for me were just the aspects of how they were recorded. Like the last one was just all like electronic, Logic, Pro, just using the tools that we're accustomed to, where this album was nothing we were accustomed to. Like, we were never used to working with a sound guy, never used to like all of us recording and playing at the same time. Not even used to like recording and just like making the ideas together from scratch. It was always just kind of like, when I joined the band, to go back into an old question you asked, because you're like, oh, when did you notice the switch of like this is like what you want to do, like when it was like a career. Before, it was always kind of just like, here's your part, play it.
Sure.
And I think the big switch for me is like, I need a part, like, like make a part. And then it's like I felt more like,
put some of you into this.
Exactly. Like I felt, so I think that and the first tour were my big switch of like, I need to take this more seriously, because even right before then, I would kind of just like, not like half-ass it, but just like my heart wasn't fully into it yet. Where now it's like, my heart's fully there now. Like, I'm ready to fully commit. Yeah.
Damn, that's really sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you guys? What do you think were the biggest things that you were the most proud of on this project versus the last one?
Well, being thrown into the bullpen, man, like what Chris said, being thrown into an environment where you have no experience in recording, there's this guy coming over, turning the whole place into a studio. What I've gotten to learn a lot from was just, playing bass for so long is just improvement of just like my ability to play on time, to a clicker. Like, that was a learning curve, man. Just a click in your headphones, and it like made us tighter, and I would never take that experience away. It just like, that whole experience was just wow.
Also, because we were talking about like experiences and learning from them before, I'm really excited to hear, because this is our first like recorded album like this. I'm excited to see what the future has to hold, because now that we've done it, I think we're gonna be like way better than like I just see it going so much improvement compared to like, this album is great, and don't get me wrong, but I could already see how we can improve.
Yeah, dude, that's so exciting too. To like be in that place where you're like, oh, like I like this, but like I already know that I can do
that we
this.
could do better.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
But don't get me wrong, this album is amazing.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. Yeah,
it's just like, yeah,
I feel that too. I definitely feel that too. Like, I think exciting. I almost reached a point where I was like, fuck, it needs more. Like, we need to add more songs, we need to add more textures or whatever. Right. But then I was like, no, like this is what it needs to be.
And we'll hone in on that for the future.
Exactly. That's kind of what I realized, where I was like, I think that's a good thing, because it means that we can save that for the next thing. Like, this thing's already wrapped up. Yeah. But I'm really happy. I'm really happy and proud of this album, because I think that we all showed up and we all delivered, and I'm really happy that I was able to really flesh out like my vision for this album. I think I'm proud of the execution. You know what I mean? Like, I'm proud of, like, we planned things and
followed through,
and sometimes it's strayed away from the plan, but like, we still ended up with something that was solid and still stayed within, like, the vision. And I think that, I think there's always going to be like things where I'm like, I wish I could have done this a little bit better. Sure. I wish like the album cover could have been taken a little bit more over here or whatever, you know what I mean?
Damn, I love the album cover.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's good.
But
it feels very deserty.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's my biggest thing, is that I feel like we executed in a way that I'm proud of.
It's cool hearing you talk about how big of like a deal it was for you guys to have like a producer in house for this one, because I think it comes through in terms of the intention, because like one thing I noticed like that this whole project is the mix. And one thing about the mix very specifically is the vocal is like so up front, like it's almost like a pop vocal mix, which is something I really love,
because like, a lot of like rock and so, like the the
buried.
vocals are kind of buried.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to make out the words, but with this, it's
that
like,
was me in the mixing process, just being like, I think vocals could come up a little more. Just him being like, they're already pretty loud. I'm like, just a little more,
Just a little
cool.
tiny bit
right.
more. I mean, yeah, it like that's one thing I love in a lot of my favorite records too. Is like, you know, like I feel like people call me like a shoegaze hater because like I want to have some sense of melody in my music a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I think like having the vocal be such an upfront element within the mix on this project, it really comes through with what you're saying.
Yeah.
And a lot of the vocal melodies really stick. And I don't know, like it makes things a lot catchier and a lot easier to grab onto, I think. Did you like, was that something that you wanted to change from the last project? Even though I think your vocals have always been pretty present in the mix,
Well,
but
I think on this album,
also real quick, I just want to say this. I think vocally, like this album, there's so much improvement too. I think like you singing wise, like I think on this project you're touching things that you were not on the last project.
I was just about to say that, like, I'm fucking singing on this thing.
Yeah, dude.
You know, like it was hard. Like a lot of the shit that I'm singing is really hard.
Yeah.
And I was only able to record them like 3 times. You know, like for Pray for Rain, I was only able to really record that 3 or 4 times because it was so straining on my vocals. Like I could only hit those high notes a couple times. That shit's tough. That shit's tough. And my vocals definitely started like wearing down after a certain point.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a conscious thing, like trying to just I guess showcase a little more singing, you know what I mean? Like I just wanted to showcase that a little bit more.
Yeah.
We can sing over here.
Do you feel like as a vocalist in the past year, 2 years, you've gotten a lot more confident, like and a lot more comfortable? Like I feel like you're doing a lot of things vocally on this project that like just like different notes and things you weren't touching on the last stuff.
Definitely more confident and a little bit more ambitious with my singing.
Totally.
Like to the point where I was like, I didn't know. Like I don't know if I was like biting off more than I could chew, you know what I mean? But I think we did okay.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. But I think that was a conscious thing where I was like, I want to be a little bit more ambitious and like a little bit more adventurous with these vocal melodies, you know?
Yeah. No, it's really sick. I think it definitely plays into the songs feeling so big, as we were talking about earlier. I mean, I think also like so many of the really cool synth loops and also some of the sax parts, I think really tie things together because I think they like, yeah, of course. I just think bringing things away from that more traditional like 4-piece band dynamic, it just gives your ear something to grab onto in a setting where you might not like necessarily like originally like think of, you know?
Right.
I was curious too, like this project, because I think sonically it lives in a world that's very different from the last one.
Right.
Like this one feels a lot more atmospheric. It feels like bigger. Just like the arrangements feel a lot more fleshed out in a really cool way.
Right.
Do you guys feel like there was a song on the project that like really informed the rest of the Sonics? Like if you had to pick one specifically that really almost like
Rain.
a focus track. Yeah.
Pray for Rain.
Sure.
That guitar melody, that
Yeah.
It's just like giving desert, man.
Yeah, that one
it is.
Well, that one's just so atmospheric in the sense of like everything's just so like it's more of a vibe and an atmosphere rather than just like a song.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like we're selling more of an experience than a song, because like which one did you write?
Oh, Bug Fever.
Yeah, Bug Fever. That one's just a vibe.
That
Yeah.
one's literally just like
vibe,
like a straight up like drawn out vibe, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just like
Sure.
it's an experience that's, you know, but things I like about those like very slow songs like Bug Fever. So many people nowadays have such like short attention spans.
Yeah.
So giving them like a long ass piece to be like, you just gotta sit down for this one.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, and it's like things like that. It's like, you know, giving people like making them focus almost. So it's like I think that's good for like brain work, chemistry, all that stuff. You know,
Dude,
it's
yeah.
healthy. It's
I
healthy.
I think it helps the buy-in with your fan base too.
Yeah.
I think like having longer things to really grab onto and like moments in a song, right?
Right.
I think people buy into that a lot more, and it gives them a lot more things to chew on.
Yeah, rather than just being so like, because everything's so fast-paced nowadays. Instagram, TikTok, the way that songs are like, the standard for music, I think nowadays is like anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes. I don't think we have a song under like 4.
Yeah, no, they're all longer.
Yeah, they're all long.
Yeah.
Did you go in with that intention, or did that just kind of come out?
It's just kind of how we roll, man.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
kinda
4-minute tracks.
We've been shit talking you the whole time.
Yeah, bro, it got bad.
It got bad.
Yo, your fly's down.
Got his ass, man. No, yeah, I mean, I think that intention is really cool because I totally agree with you, and I think like having more moments to grab onto. I think that's one thing that's really cool about this project too. Like I think what I really came away from it thinking was like, one, it really feels like the desert, and then two, there's so many moments. Like there's so many like big sonic moments. Like, dude, the switch up on "Pray for Rain" is a big one of those for me. Like that's the one where the instrumental just fully changes in the back half, right?
Yeah.
That's such a cool moment, dude. I was listening to it in my car and I thought it was like a different song.
Yeah.
Did that begin as two different songs that you put together, or like when did you realize you wanted to add that big switch up? Because that song is so special.
Yeah, I think I was. It definitely wasn't like the original idea. I think I was writing the first half, and then I think it came from me just like kind of being bored with it, and I was like, "Fuck this! We're fucking playing a completely different chord now. It's going into a whole nother song." And it's so funny. Like when before that song came out, I was showing it to a few homies, and we'd play it like in the car, and I'd play them the song, and then it'd like go to that break where it's like literally just nothing, and then the other part starts, where it's like that break where it's nothing. They'd just be like, "Hell yeah, it's a really good song, man," and then fucking yeah, and yeah, that's always cool to like witness them just being like, like realize that there's like a second half, but yeah, that was definitely an afterthought. I just wanted to make it a little more interesting.
Is that something you do a lot? Like play stuff for other people and get their interpretation of it? And does that ever inform your process?
No, that was when the song was already recorded and mixed, and yeah. And I think I was just excited about it, and I wanted to show like one of my close homies. Yeah.
That's sick, bro. That's sick.
Yeah.
Cool. I think the last thing I wanted to ask you guys about the project, if you had like one greater intention for it, one message or like one thing that you hope people would get from it once they listen to it, what would that be? I know, big thing here.
Yeah,
that is a big thing.
It's a big thinker.
A big thinker. It's my rap name, bro.
Big thinker.
Big thinker.
It's fucking awesome.
Big thinker.
A big thinker in the building.
Yeah.
Big thinker in the house.
I don't know.
I think
that's a hard one.
I think that what I think fans should take away from it is just like hearing it's a story. I feel like this sophomore album, just about the desert and everything, and just being like, yo, these guys really put some soul into this, you know, and everything. I feel like just walking away with that and just being like,
I think a personal thing that I want people to take away from it is that we all know we're locked into this, and I think this album's showing that. 100%. I think this album is like a great representation of like, we're not just doing this for fun, like we are trying to be as serious as possible about this. And I think that that's a good, like, I think that would be something for me personally, like that hope, like for people to walk away with, that for them to be excited for what the future has to hold.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I love that.
I don't know. I guess one thing, because the biggest theme is like, revolved around the desert, I hope that somebody listens to this and maybe just like comes to a conclusion that they can kind of separate from things for a little while and try to reconnect with themselves in some way, and you can be alone, and that doesn't mean that you're lonely. Just give yourself a little bit of time. I think that I'd be happy if that's what somebody took away from this,
like the desert, man.
Yeah,
it's lonely. It doesn't mean you have to be alone. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Israel's Arcade. Thanks a lot,
you so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
This was a
problem.
blast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This was
pleasure.
so
Awesome,
fucking fun.
dude.
I
Man,
think-
I love you, dude.
This is such a great.
My
yeah.
dog, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, bro. That was so fun. No, dude, that was a lot of fun. I feel very passionate.
Big thinker.
Passionately,
Big
big
thinker in
thinker,
the
bro.
building.
Tight shit. No, I'm so incredibly excited for people to hear the project. I think it's so special, and it feels like such a cool new direction for you guys. And I think it's going to open up a whole world of incredibly interesting possibilities. And I just can't wait to see where you go next and how people take the album.
Hell yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, thank
so
you,
much.
man.
for
Thank you
everything,
guys,
man.
bro. Of course.
Amazing questions as
Yes.
always.
Thank
Yeah.
you, man. I appreciate
So
it. I
you
appreciate
got
it, bro.
me feeling introspective and thinking about fucking.
Yeah.
Wait, why did I do this?
What is my name?
Is it me?
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, brother.
Tell them where they could. The project's out right now, right tonight or tomorrow?
Next Friday.
Oh, it's next Friday.
but
I thought it was this
will-
Friday.
I mean, when will this come out? I mean,
Probably next Friday.
oh shit.
Oh, so
Today.
It came out today. For
Yeah.
them.
I mean, Spotify, everything, YouTube,
Apple
probably
Music.
SoundCloud as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also going on tour. We're going on a West
yeah.
Coast tour. It's about like I don't know. It's like 25 days.
Whoa,
not
dude,
all of those
hell
are
yeah.
shows, but yeah, we're going on tour with Bed. Yeah, and then we're doing LA at the Troubadour with Bed and Wayward. We're doing San Diego, Tijuana. We're doing
you're doing
We're doing
Tijuana?
Tijuana, dude.
That's so
We're very
sick.
excited about that. We're doing New Mexico, Idaho, Arizona, Nevada, Denver. I always forget Denver, and you always are the one to remember
Denver was fun, dude.
Denver.
Denver.
You have somebody waiting for you in Denver or something?
Denver
Just
was
the
so
drinks.
cool.
Just the drinks.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Denver Huzz, bro.
The Mile High City, dude. Last time we were there, we had 2 drinks and we had 2
Yeah.
beers and we were done.
We were.
What do you mean? Oh, because the altitude?
Yes.
Is it real? Like it's like
It's
that?
real.
It's real, man.
Israel.
Israel's Arcade. Thank you for watching.
Israel's Arcade. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
Appreciate
much, man.
y'all.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Music matters.